The sun boiled above the endless Egyptian desert. But Dr. Edward Harper's heart beat faster than the heat could slow. He stood atop a dune, holding a worn leather scroll in one hand and a compass in the other. Behind him, a caravan of camels and crates waited, led by his loyal guide, Abdul Hamid. "This is it," Edward whispered. "The tomb of Pharaoh Zareen. It must be here." Legends spoke of a king who ruled during a forgotten dynasty, one who defied death by sealing his soul inside a glowing object, the soul crystal. Many claimed it was myth. Edward believed otherwise. A sudden gust of wind swept the sand aside, revealing a black stone slab half buried in the earth. Strange hieroglyphs were etched into it. Abdul stepped forward, pale. "We should not disturb this place. My people say Pharaoh Zareen still waits beneath." Edward smiled. "Then let him wait a little longer." By dusk, they had cleared the sand, uncovering a massive stone gate carved with symbols unlike any Edward had ever seen. At its center, an image of a man with golden eyes and a crown shaped like a serpent. Beneath it was written, "I am Zareen, the eternal flame. Whosoever awakens me shall walk beside death." Elise Harper, Edward's sharp-minded daughter and translator, ran her fingers over the script. "Dad, this isn't just a warning. It's a curse." But Edward's curiosity was stronger than fear. With help from the workers, he rotated the stone disc embedded in the gate. With a groan, the door slid open, releasing a rush of air as cold as night. Elise shivered. "Why does it feel like something just breathed on us?" Edward stepped in. Because something probably did. Inside, the air was thick and ancient. Torches revealed a circular chamber lined with gold-covered walls. In the center sat a raised altar of obsidian, and upon it a glass orb, no larger than a melon pulsing with blue light. It didn't just shine. It moved, light swirling like a slow storm trapped inside. Abdul stopped at the doorway. "This is the soul crystal. My grandfather told stories of men who touched it and never returned. Zareen put his soul in it to escape death. That is no legend." Edward stepped closer, mesmerized. The orb thrummed softly in his presence. "It's alive," Elise murmured. Before anyone could stop him, Edward reached out and lifted the crystal. The chamber rumbled. From the walls, a whisper echoed, not in words but in pain. Outside the tomb, the sky had darkened unnaturally. Winds howled as Edward placed the soul crystal into a velvet case. They returned to their camp, but nothing felt the same. That night, Elise woke screaming. "He's watching! In the corner of the tent! He's here!" Abdul rushed in with a lantern. There was no one, but Elise's arms had long red marks, as if scratched by claws. Edward tried to stay logical, but his hands shook. He too had heard something, a deep voice in his dreams saying, "You have stolen eternity." Their camels refused to move the next morning. One had died overnight, its eyes frozen open, staring into the void. Still, Edward pushed forward. The world must see this artifact. It's bigger than superstition. But something had already begun, something that would not be stopped. Back in London, Edward unveiled the soul crystal in the British Museum under heavy security. Scholars from all over Europe came to view the glowing artifact. But strange things followed. The curator who locked the case was found in the basement, face contorted in terror. Security footage showed no one else near him. The museum's cameras began flickering each night around. 2:22 a.m. On one tape, a figure appeared, barely visible, tall, robed, wearing a serpent crown. Elise, still recovering from nightmares, confronted her father. "You have no idea what you brought back. That orb, it's not a relic. It's a prison." Edward shook his head. "Then what holds it will hold no longer." The morning after the exhibit's public opening, a chill hung in the museum's east wing. A janitor named Morris never returned from his night shift. His body was found slumped against the soul crystal's case, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. The strange part, no sign of trauma, no heart attack. It was as if his soul had simply left. A shadow flickered across the surveillance feed. Again at 2:22 a.m., taller than any man, standing still behind the glass. Sir Malcolm Graves, a historian of forbidden lore, was called in. He stared at the orb with pale, sunken eyes. "This crystal is not merely cursed. It's waking something that has been waiting for centuries." Elise felt it too. At night she now dreamt in hieroglyphs. Elise searched her father's journals, trying to decode the ancient writing from her dreams. In one, she found a page Edward had hidden, a charcoal rubbing of a scroll etched into the tomb wall. It read, "Zareen sealed his spirit in the crystal, bound by blood, bone, and betrayal. To release his wrath, one must remove the crystal from the throne of silence." She realized her father had known the danger all along. He had hidden the warning because he didn't believe in it. Enraged, she confronted Edward. "You brought death into our world." But Edward, pale and weary, simply replied, "Knowledge always has a price." That night, Elise awoke to find a scarab beetle crawling across her chest, the same sacred symbol found at Zareen's tomb. Sir Malcolm took Elise to an old bookstore in Bloomsbury, hidden beneath a false wall. There, in the candlelit depths, sat 4 men and women cloaked in dark robes. They were part of the Order of the Eternal Flame, a secret society formed in the 1600s to monitor ancient curses and supernatural threats. "We've been watching that tomb for centuries," one woman whispered. "Zareen was no ordinary pharaoh. He studied dark magic from Nubian sorcerers. He believed death was a doorway, not an end." They revealed that Zareen had 3 vessels for his resurrection. 1. The soul crystal. 2. His ceremonial dagger. 3. The Eye of Anubis amulet. If all 3 came together, Zareen's body could reform. Elise felt cold. "Where are the other 2 items?" Sir Malcolm hesitated. "We believe your father has the dagger." Elise snuck into Edward's private study that night. She found a long black case hidden under the floorboards. Inside it lay a golden curved dagger, encrusted with ruby scarabs and sapphire eyes. As she picked it up, her vision blurred. She saw flashes, a desert battlefield, a king holding the blade high, blood dripping onto stone, and then Zareen's golden eyes staring back at her. She dropped the dagger, gasping. Edward walked in quietly. "I never meant to hide it from you," he said. "But if the stories were true, I feared what they meant." Elise turned to him. "We need to return it, before he finds the 3rd piece." A message arrived that evening. A package had been stolen from a private collector in Istanbul, a necklace with a black crystal eye in its center, known as the Eye of Anubis. Inside the package left behind was a parchment with 3 symbols burned into it. The symbol of Zareen, a flame, and a crown pierced by a serpent fang. Malcolm's face turned ashen. "He's gathering his pieces." As they spoke, thunder rumbled outside. Elise's breath caught as the glass case housing the soul crystal shattered on its own. The orb floated in midair, glowing red. "Now," and a whisper filled the room like a storm. "I am coming." That night, London's air turned still. Abdul, who had returned to help Elise, awoke to find Edward standing silently in the museum hall, facing the empty pedestal. His eyes glowed faint gold. His breath was shallow, almost non-existent. "Father?" Elise whispered. Edward slowly turned to her. "The stars are aligned. The gate is open. Zareen will rise." Then suddenly, Edward collapsed. Sir Malcolm rushed to examine him. "He's not unconscious," Malcolm said gravely. "He's hollow." The soul crystal now hovered constantly. It pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, like a heartbeat. "Zareen is no longer a spirit," Elise said. "He's using my father to return." In the Order's secret library, Elise found a sealed scroll written in both Latin and ancient Egyptian. Sir Malcolm read it aloud. It spoke of a royal daughter, stolen from the palace before Zareen's death. Her blood would be the final bridge. Elise gasped. "Me?" Malcolm nodded slowly. "It's possible. Your mother, her ancestry is unknown. You may carry the last of Zareen's bloodline. That would make you the key." "To what?" "To either bind him or bring him back fully." Suddenly, Elise understood why she was seeing visions, why the crystal reacted to her touch. She wasn't just part of the story. She was the story. Elise found an old phonograph recording her father had made years ago. His voice crackled. "If you're hearing this, then I've failed. The curse is real. I ignored the signs. I thought I could control it." He continued. "Zareen was betrayed by his own council, murdered before completing his ritual. That's why his soul is trapped. He doesn't want revenge. He wants resurrection." Elise's eyes welled up. Her father had known the truth and tried to fix it alone, but now it was too late. The dagger had vanished, and the soul crystal was no longer just floating. It had started glowing brighter each hour. The order traced the stolen eye of Anubis to a hidden buyer in Alexandria. Elise, Malcolm, and Abdul flew to Egypt, returning to the land where it all began. In the crumbling ruins of an ancient temple, they found signs of recent digging and blood. The eye was gone, but on a wall, written in what appeared to be fresh blood, was, "The three are reunited. Let the flesh rise." Suddenly the ground trembled. From the sand, a figure in golden armor emerged, half rotted, half ethereal, eyes like burning suns. A whisper followed. "You carry my blood, daughter of time." Elise's knees buckled. "Zareen?" He vanished into smoke. But he had shown himself. Back in London, Edward woke up. But he was different. His voice, his movements, everything was wrong. He looked at Elise and said, "I have seen the other side. There is no peace, only power." Sir Malcolm cried out, "He's inside him! Zareen's soul has taken hold!" As Edward Zareen stepped forward, glass shattered across the museum, books flew from shelves, and the soul crystal began spinning in midair. Elise ran to her father, but he struck her with a wave of unseen energy. "You will help me rise. Your blood completes me." Then as quickly as he came, Zareen disappeared, taking Edward's body with him. All that remained was the dagger, now burning red-hot on the floor. Deep beneath the sands of Giza, a forgotten chamber stirred, one even the ancients dared not map. Edward, now only partially himself, moved through the dark halls like a man caught between worlds. Zareen's spirit had taken hold of his body, twisting bone and mind into something unnatural. In the center of the temple, 3 items rested on a stone slab. The soul crystal, the eye of Anubis, the dagger of flame. Edward placed his hand on the crystal. His voice was no longer his own. "The vessels are reunited. I shall have form again. The hour draws near." The walls responded, glowing red with living hieroglyphs, as if the temple itself were alive. Back in Cairo, Elise paced the rooftop of their hotel, wind whipping through her hair. Sir Malcolm placed a hand on her shoulder. "You are the last of Zareen's blood. You have a choice. Stop him or complete him." Elise clenched her fists. "What if stopping him kills my father?" "Then you must decide what the world needs more. One life, or all lives." She closed her eyes, recalling her father's warmth, his mistakes, his silence. "Then I need power." Malcolm handed her a scroll, the ritual of severing. It could sever the link between Edward and Zareen, but it required a willing sacrifice. At the Order's London sanctuary, a meeting turned violent. One of the elders, Lucian, a man long obsessed with immortality, revealed he had been working with Zareen's spirit for years. "You fools fight him while I embraced him. He promised me life eternal." Lucian slaughtered 2 Order members and fled into the night with a stolen relic, the crown of fire. A 4th artifact believed only mythical. "He's accelerating the ritual," Malcolm warned. "If the crown is worn before the equinox, Zareen could be unstoppable." The Order was splintering. Zareen's influence was no longer just spiritual. It was political, magical, human. Abdul revealed a secret passed down from his ancestors, a lost pyramid, buried under centuries of shifting sand, said to be Zareen's true tomb. Not a grave, but a womb for rebirth. With Elise, Malcolm, and 2 surviving order members, they set out under cover of night. Inside the pyramid, they found murals showing Zareen transforming into a creature of divine energy. The text read, "When the blood returns and the flame is crowned, the God King shall rise, no longer bound by death or flesh." In a side chamber, Elise saw her own face etched into the wall, eyes glowing. Abdul gasped. "You were foretold." In the temple beneath Giza, Edward's transformation was nearly complete. His skin shimmered gold in the torchlight. His eyes were suns. Zareen, now fully speaking through him, stood before the crystal. "The eclipse comes in 3 nights. Then I shall rise, not as a king, but as a god." The relics vibrated, feeding energy into his body. Across the world, signs of disruption appeared. The Nile overflowed its banks. Animals fled the desert. Children screamed in unknown tongues. Elise felt the change, too. Her dreams were now visions, showing her past lives, one where she stood beside Zareen as his wife, another where she stabbed him in the heart. "It always ends in blood," she whispered, "and it always begins again." Elise sat alone in the chamber of the lost pyramid, staring into a circular pool that shimmered like liquid glass. Sir Malcolm had called it the Mirror of Truth, a sacred tool left by the Nubian priestesses, who once warned of Zareen's rise. Elise's reflection began to change. Her face dissolved, replaced by a young woman wearing a golden headdress, her hands stained with blood. Suddenly the mirror rippled. She saw herself, centuries ago, kneeling before Zareen, begging him to stop the soul crystal ritual. "You were not just his descendant," Malcolm whispered, watching from behind. "You were his bride, his equal, and his executioner." That night, Elise dreamt again, but this time she wasn't afraid. She stood in a vast desert under a black sun. Before her, Zareen towered in full regalia, his eyes aflame, his voice deep as thunder. "You carry my blood and my love. We were once whole. We can be again." Elise stood firm. "You betrayed life itself. You imprisoned your soul." He stepped closer. "I did what they feared, what the gods feared. But with you beside me, I can complete the circle." She awoke in tears. Her fingers were burned. She had touched him in the dream, and the pain was real. The group prepared for the final confrontation. They needed to perform the severing ritual. During the eclipse, only then could Zareen's spirit be cut from Edward's body. But one of them had other plans. Brother Venn, a quiet scholar in the order, vanished during the night. When they followed his trail, they found a signal fire lit in the dunes, and nearby, the crystal dagger was gone. Malcolm's face turned pale. "He's going to deliver it to Zareen, and with the dagger in his possession, the eclipse will be the final key." They had less than 48 hours. Abdul guided them through a sandstorm toward the ancient Red Temple, where it was believed the final binding ritual would be attempted. There, hidden in a chamber deep below, Brother Van knelt before Zareen, offering the dagger with trembling hands. Zareen, his body now fully formed in golden flesh, placed a hand on Ven's head. "You have served me." And then he crushed his skull in a single motion. Elise and Malcolm arrived too late. The temple shook. The soul crystal floated above the altar, merging with the eye of Anubis and the dagger. "He has all three," Malcolm said. "No," Elise whispered. "He needs me. I'm the fourth piece." The day of the eclipse arrived. In the skies above Egypt, the sun began to darken, stained with red light. Birds fled. The wind stopped. Atop a black ziggurat, Zareen stood, Edward's soul trapped deep within, silenced, helpless. Below, Elise approached with a single torch, her mother's locket in one hand and the scroll of severance in the other. "I'm not yours anymore," she said aloud. "You may carry my blood, but you don't own my soul." Zareen extended his hand. "Come to me, daughter of the past." She stepped forward. The ritual had begun. The fate of the world would now hinge on Elise's final choice. As the eclipse reached its blood-red peak, Elise stood at the foot of the black ziggurat. The scroll of severance fluttered in the hot, still air. The ground trembled with ancient power. She raised her arms and began the incantation. "By flame, by blood, by forgotten name, I unbind the soul from stolen frame," Zareen roared. His golden skin cracked, black mist swirling from his mouth and eyes. "You dare speak the words of separation?" Elise's voice faltered for only a second, but then she screamed the final line. A beam of white light burst from the soul crystal, piercing the sky. Zareen staggered. For the first time, he felt fear. From within the chaos, a voice emerged. Edward's voice. "Elise!" He stood in the center of the light, half himself, half shadow. "He's too strong. I can't hold him much longer." Elise stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Then I'll help you. We finish this together." She reached out. Their hands touched, and a shockwave of energy erupted across the temple. Zareen was thrown back, shrieking in a voice that split the stones. "You would destroy your own bloodline for this mortal shell?" "You're not my blood. You're just what's left of a curse," she whispered. Above them, the sky cracked like glass. The eclipse pulsed with unnatural light, and from it, a celestial gateway began to open, a swirling rift between realms. Sir Malcolm, watching from below, cried out, "He's not just trying to rise, he's trying to bring the underworld with him." Zareen began chanting in an ancient tongue, his body floating upward, absorbing power from the rift. Elise felt herself being pulled toward the sky. The soul crystal rose with her, glowing so brightly it nearly blinded her. Then she heard a voice in her mind. "Let go! Come with me! Become eternal!" It was Zareen. He was offering her immortality. Time froze. Elise stood inside a vision, an alternate future. Zareen beside her, the world below them a sea of worship. "We can rule together forever, no more death, no more pain." She saw herself as a queen, a goddess, untouchable. But then the image shifted. The world burned. Oceans dried. People cried out as shadows swallowed them. Zareen looked at her. This is the cost of mortality. Come with me. Elise took a deep breath. No. She smashed the soul crystal against her own chest. The light exploded. The impact shattered the temple summit. Zareen screamed, his form unraveling in tendrils of black fire. The rift above collapsed, pulling his spirit upward, howling as he was torn back into the void. The soul crystal disintegrated. The dagger melted. The eye of Anubis cracked and turned to dust. Zareen was gone. Elise fell unconscious, the sands around her rising like a protective wave, covering the destroyed altar in silence. When she woke, Edward was beside her, pale, human, free. You did it, he whispered. She nodded, her voice hoarse. No, we did. Above them, the eclipse faded. The sun returned, and for the first time in centuries, Zareen's curse was broken. The desert lay quiet. Smoke curled gently from the remains of the black ziggurat. Elise sat beside her father, watching the sun rise over the dunes, its light no longer tinted red. Abdul approached with fresh water and said softly, You have broken the curse of kings. Elise nodded, exhausted. But at what cost? Sir Malcolm joined them, his cloak scorched, his eyes heavy. The Order has lost half its council. The artifacts are gone, but we survived what no one else could have. Elise looked down at her chest, where the soul crystal had shattered against her. A faint, glowing scar remained, a reminder that power leaves marks, even when it's gone. Weeks later, the team returned to London. The museum remained closed to the public, sealed under government order. Too many questions, too many dangers. Edward remained weak. His memory flickered, flashes of Zareen's thoughts still haunting his dreams. One night he whispered. The stars spoke to him. They said he was chosen, not by gods, but by something older. Elise felt a chill. Was Zareen merely a sorcerer, or something more? At the Order's sanctuary, a vote was held. Malcolm proposed that all documents related to Zareen be sealed for 100 years. The world is not ready for what we've seen. Elise voted against it, but she was outnumbered. Edward's body healed slowly, but his soul, fractured by possession, struggled. Some days he was lucid. He'd sketch the tomb, the pyramid, the dagger. Other days he sat in silence, muttering in ancient Egyptian. Elise refused to give up on him. She read to him, sat with him, waited. And one morning he looked at her clearly for the first time in weeks. Did we win? She smiled through tears. We survived. That's enough for now. But he still bore a strange mark behind his left ear. A serpent encircling an eye, faint like a brand. Elise didn't mention it yet. Word came from Egypt. Lucien, the traitor from the Order, had been found alive. He had been buried beneath the collapsed temple, but something had kept him breathing. The rescuers said he spoke in riddles. Elise visited him, locked in a high-security hospital. His skin was pale. His eyes were milky white. The soul crystal was only a door, he whispered. There are more. In the sands, beneath the seas, beneath the stars. Elise leaned in. What doors? He smiled. Zareen was just the beginning. On a quiet evening in London, Elise stood on the museum's rooftop. The city lights below glowed softly, but the sky held her gaze. High above, among the stars, something shimmered, a faint constellation forming, a serpent crowned with flame. And then, just for a moment, the scar on her chest glowed softly in response. Sir Malcolm appeared beside her. The end? She shook her head. The beginning of something older. Something we woke up when we broke Zareen. Far away, in a desert no map dares name, a second crystal pulsed beneath the ground. It was watching. Elise stared into the night sky, her scar pulsing faintly. Somewhere far away, a second soul crystal had awakened. In Egypt, a rogue excavation team, financed by black market collectors, had found a mirror tomb similar to Zareen's. The walls bore a different name. Zenith, Keeper of Shadows. Elise received an encrypted message. It came from a long-dead archaeologist's account. He was not the only one. The soul crystals were created to hold the power of stars. Zareen failed. Zenith waits. Sir Malcolm read it over her shoulder and whispered, "We need to stop this before it starts again." Edward had improved slowly, but his dreams remained haunted. One night he sat bolt upright, gasping. "Elise, I remember. Zareen." He didn't create the soul crystal. He found it. In his final days as Pharaoh, Zareen had descended into a cave where stars weep into stone. What he retrieved was not of earth, a fragment of something ancient, something alien. He thought he could control it, but it controlled him. Elise looked at her scar, then at her father. So the real threat was never Zareen. He nodded. It was what lived inside the crystal. The order gathered once more. Elise stood before them with a simple proposal. We bury the truth. We destroy the tomb of Zenith before it opens. We end this now. But debate erupted. Some wanted to study the second crystal. Others believed it could be used as a weapon. Finally, Sir Malcolm raised his voice. If you saw what Zareen became, you wouldn't ask for power. You'd pray for ignorance. They voted. The tomb would be destroyed. The second soul crystal lost to the sands. But Elise had one more task to finish. Elise and Edward returned to Egypt one last time, to the ruins of Zareen's ziggurat. She placed her hand on the stone altar where it had all begun. Then she took a small black box from her satchel, a shard of the original soul crystal she had secretly kept. "Even a spark is too dangerous," she whispered. With a hammer, she shattered it into dust and poured it into the desert wind. Zareen's voice, faint as a breeze, whispered once more, "We will meet again in stars." And then silence forever. Elise returned to teaching, her father to quiet recovery. The order quietly disbanded, its knowledge sealed away forever. But on quiet nights, when the wind is just right, Elise swears she still hears chanting in a language older than time. She keeps a journal locked away, labeled Soul Crystal Archive, Do Not Open. And beneath it, a blank page, waiting, just in case.